Okay, my name is Leonard Rowe. I live here in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a concert promoter. I've been a concert promoter for 35 years. It's a business that I love dearly. When I came out of college and decided to go into this business, I fell in love with it. But upon going into this business, I noticed one thing that I felt was not only unlawful, but it was wrong. I found that black people such as myself was not allowed to engage in a contract with white entertainers, but whites was allowed to engage in contracts with both white and black entertainers. Well, it didn't take Einstein to know that I could never reach the level of prosperity that my white counterparts reached. But I dealt with that for some 20 years or so. So did my black counterparts. I became president of the Black Promoters Association in 1996. And at that time, I noticed that the industry that I was involved in, which was the entertainment industry, was running black promoters such as myself out of business. This was basically done by the William Morris Agency as well as Creative Artists Agency. So I knew I had to do something being president of this association. So what I did, I started inquiring about it, and I started writing letter after letter to these companies, asking them to sit down and let's discuss the problems that black people and black promoters were confronted with. I tried to explain to them that if you run black people out of the concert promotion industry, you run a lot of business, associated businesses that are black out of the entertainment industry, such as caterers, limousine companies, production companies, and the list goes on and on. So they was hurting the black communities nationwide. Black promoters, whether people recognize it or not, they serve as the financial bridge for that concert dollar to return to the black community. When you go down to your favorite Coliseum to see your favorite African-American artist, and you put your money through to purchase your tickets, that money, when black promoters are not involved, that money never returns to the black community. So to make a long story short, I was concerned about that. So I tried to talk to these companies, but to no avail. They did not want to listen to my cry. So what I did, I started searching for an attorney that could present our case to the federal courts. I was sought out by this law firm, Sun & Shine Nathan Rosenthal, by an attorney by the name of Mr. Martin Gold. He looked at my case after speaking with me and told me that I had a very viable case and that he said that I wasn't only being discriminated against, they also are violating the antitrust laws of this nation. So to make a long story short, we filed a complaint on November the 19th, 1998 in federal court in New York City, Southern District. And that lawsuit continued for some 7 years. And during that lawsuit, all kind of deplorable evidence started to surface. We had sued 32 companies within the music industry for discrimination and violation of the antitrust laws. During the course of that lawsuit, deplorable evidence such as don't tell the blacks, do not allow the blacks to see this or that, keep this information away from blacks, all kind of evidence such as that started surfacing. So 27 of the defendants decided to settle. But the richest defendants in the case, the billion-dollar companies such as William Morris and CAA, they would not settle. But the judge allowed us, during discovery, to do email search of these two companies. The email search cost the plaintiffs $200,000 to do. I didn't mind doing email search because I was sure that the email search would prove our case. I was sure that it would yield evidence to show not only the court, but the entire nation what we have been complaining of. My attorneys was overseeing the email search, although we paid for it. My New York attorneys was overseeing the search. The day the search was to return, and maybe I should explain first of all how a search is done. You present certain search words to the email company that's doing the search for you, which we did. We presented words such as nigger, such as blacks, such as coons, such as spooks, spades. We presented these words to the email company along with other hit words such that are normally found in antitrust cases. So the day the email search results was due to return to my lawyer's office, I was in Atlanta, and I called up there, and for some reason I couldn't get no one on the phone. Now this was awful strange to me because they knew that I was waiting on this search. And this was very important, as you could guess. I didn't reach no one till 6 o'clock that afternoon out of the 5 attorneys that was working on my case at this firm. When I did finally reach someone, they told me nothing was found. That attorney's name was Richard Prumoff. He now works for the SEC, Security Exchange Commission in New York. He told me nothing was found in the emails. I couldn't do nothing but accept that, but it was hard for me to believe. A short time after, maybe a month or so after that, I was called to New York for a meeting in another attorney's office by the name of Raymond Hessling. Hessling is his last name, Heslin. When I got to his office, his secretary told me he was on the phone. She'll let him know that I was there. And I heard him in his office talking to someone about meetings that was held with my defendants. Now, this was alarming to me because I was never told about these meetings, but I paid it no attention. I went into his office, and when I had a seat in front of his desk, he received another phone call. He turned his back to me for a little privacy, I guess, and I happened to glance on his desk, and I see my name, and the capture of my case, Rowe Entertainment versus the William Morris Agency, email results, and it had the word nigger strolled down the front. I don't know how many times. So when he got off the phone, I asked him, what was that? He flipped it over in my face and said, you're not supposed to see that. And he began to pursue an argument with me. So I left out of his office and I called another law firm that was working on my case in Florida, which was the Willie Gary firm. And I told him what I had seen. So he immediately called up to New York and asked them to fax it to him, which they did do. That's how it was finally discovered. Okay? During the course of my case, the evidence was so egregious that was being brought forth that we was finding during discovery that the judge pleaded with the defendants to settle, because what he said was he did not see any way for them to overcome the evidence that we are presenting in front of a jury. But they refused to settle. And I see now why they refused to settle, because they had another trick up their sleeve. So to make a long story short, we went through summary judgment. We presented 10 boxes of evidence. we presented the word nigger being used 349 times in documents from CAA and William Morris. They did not say the N-word in these documents. They said the word nigger. So that's why I'm going to say it. That's what they said. They also said coons and spooks hundreds of times. They talked, the language that they used referring to black people was so egregious and it was so outrageous until I can't even expect you to imagine what it looked like. Degrading to all people of this country for them to use, not only black people, it's degrading to everyone in America for this type of language to be used describing American citizens. What happened is summary judgment. No one could believe. After a year, almost 2 years, it took the judge to rule on summary judgment. And he came back and ruled in his opinion that he saw no evidence that this case should proceed to a jury. It was mind-boggling. I can't tell you how destroyed not only I was, but numerous of other people. I mean, what he did here, it was just mind-boggling. When you look at the law and you read and study summary judgment like I had done, the law is plain. It states that if there's a scintilla of evidence, the case must proceed to a fact finder, which is a jury. Now, I was always wondering why would they even file for summary judgment with this much evidence against them, with the law stating what it states about summary judgment. I later found out why. They had a plan. So that happened. The judge dismissed our case. I came back this year of 2012 when I found out about fraud upon the court, which is something that I wasn't educated about. I'm not a lawyer. I've never been to law school. So I didn't know that there was a such thing as fraud upon the court. And I would like for everyone to know this, because this is something that the normal citizen do not know. Anytime there's fraud upon the court, that case is never over. The rulings in that case are void if you can prove that fraud existed in your case, no matter how long it have been. I don't care if it's 10 years, I don't care if it's 20 years. If they perpetrated fraud upon the court, you need to file your 60 motion to have that case re-entered. But anyway, that's what I did. I filed a 60B motion March the 2nd, 2012 to try to get my case reinstated for fraud being perpetrated upon the court. I laid out the details of what happened. The only thing I didn't have at the time when I filed it was the document of the results. But I told in my 60B what I saw and what happened in my case. No one answered. The defendants in my case never answered my 60B. My own lawyers, attorneys, never replied to my 60B. 2 months later, the judge ordered my own attorneys, who's not the defendants in the case, to answer. They answered with declarations, and all of them perjured themselves in their declarations by saying that the document Mr. Rowe refers to in his 60B do not exist. There's no such document. And they also stated that no derogatory words existed or was found in the defendant's emails. None whatsoever. And they said Mr. Rowe should be sanctioned and the court should put an end to his actions immediately. They stated this under oath in their declarations under the penalty of perjury. Now, lo and behold, I guess God was just helping me out some. I received that document that I saw on the desk that they said did not exist. I got a copy of it out of the court files that we had filed years previous during the summary judgment portion of the case. I sent it in with my reply to their declarations. When they received that, they went silent. The defendants, mind you, never did answer, never said anything, because when there's fraud, attorneys don't like to talk. They like to be quiet so that if you have evidence, they won't say anything to incriminate themselves. So they never did answer. So what happened was, after I sent this in to the judge, I figured that this was it. This should take care of it. The judge see this document. They lied on the oath in their declarations, so he must reinstate my case. The judge came back with his answer last month, which was November of this year, 2012, dismissing my 60B motion and threatening to sanction me, never mentioning that they lied about the document not existing, never mentioned all of the evidence that we put forth, catching them in their untruths. He dismissed my case again. Now, for a judge to do what this judge have done, disobeying the law, disrespecting the law, denying me due process of the law, conspiring with the defendants as well as my attorneys, because no judge could do what this judge have done. No judge could turn a blind eye to the evidence that we presented to him without being corrupt. There's no way. It was not a close call. All he did, in his opinion, was ignore all of the evidence. He don't even talk about it. He act like we don't even present it. I've never seen this type of corruption in my life, nor have I ever been involved in this type of corruption. The judge in this case name is Robert P. Patterson, Jr. He's a district federal judge in the city of New York at 500 Pearl Street, the federal courthouse. This judge should be impeached immediately for what he have done. Judges are not immune to prosecution when they commit crimes. And this judge have completely committed a crime. I mean, what this judge done, you won't believe it if you look up the record. And I'd like to give the case number. The case number is 98CV8272. You can see all of the information yourself if you care to look it up. This judge have not only destroyed my life, my family's life, but he have destroyed thousands of more African American lives that had interest or was involved in the entertainment industry. All of them, and I get calls from them on a daily basis, they're either bankrupt or they have lost everything they have. They have lost their homes and everything else by this judge making the false ruling that he have made in this case. Now, what I would like to say, if anyone is watching this film that's in a position to do something about the corruption in the courts, whenever our courts start treating the American citizen like these courts have treated me, our entire country is in a position, or is in jeopardy, I might say, of being corrupt. The corrupt in our federal courts is something that we cannot stand for. You have people that sit down every year like I have done and write a check to the Internal Revenue Service. You have people such as my father that have went overseas and given their life fighting for this country, like my father did in Vietnam, and you come back here to this country and our federal courts mistreat you and allows companies, because they are so rich and powerful, to refer to you as a nigger. Now, this should not happen in America. It can't happen in America. We have to lead by example. And you cannot lead by example when you kill the faith of many Americans in our government. And that is what's happening now. People have lost faith in this country. They have lost faith in our government. So we must do something about it. You know, if I picked up my phone at home and called and said, in about 30 minutes, I'm getting ready to go up on the corner and rob the bank, the FBI would dispatch 5 cars probably to my house immediately. But when I try to report this crime about this judge and what these lawyers have done, nobody seemed to want to listen. They have stole millions of dollars and no one want to listen. This was an $800 million lawsuit. These companies paid a lot of money for this case to go away and for this evidence to never see the light of day in front of a jury. They paid enormous amount of money for that. And they had to pay this judge to ignore the law like he did. This shouldn't be done in this country. We cannot sit back and allow this type of corruption to keep taking place in America. We are losing control of our courts. We have lost control of our courts. And I don't believe you can get any more corrupt anywhere than New York City. Something must be done about the corruption in the court system in New York, because the criminals have taken over the courts in New York. And I'm saying this with all sincerity. Will someone please do something about it? Because it can't continue. And if it do continue, look, our country's gone to pot. We're finished in America, because corruption is something that the American citizens cannot live with. We can't accept that. Like I said before, I can't sit down and write a check to our government and feel good about it when I go to our government and they deny me due process of the law. So I'm asking whomever under the sound of my voice, whomever is looking at this film now, and if you have the power to do something, you must do something about the corruption in our judicial system, because it's awful.